morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is about microscopes and cell theory. Ideally, we would be doing this where we could meet in a lab and could go over microscopes and microscope anatomy. We're going to talk a little bit about them here, and we will have a virtual microscope lab that you can work with. There are a couple of different principles of microscopes, and the first is magnification. Obviously, a microscope, micro means small, scop means to see or to view. So microscope means for viewing small things. Microscopes make small things bigger. The magnification is what will increase the size of the image. Most microscopes have 4 objectives with increasing magnification as you go up. 40x, 100x, 400x, and 1000x. So as you move from 40 to 100, you get closer. As you use from 100 to 400, you get closer, so on and so forth. So magnification is a factor of how much does the scope increase the size of the object. Next is resolution. Resolution is measures how easy it is to tell the difference between 2 points. It measures image clarity. The higher the magnification, usually, the higher the resolution. An example of resolution, example of resolving power, is when you're driving at night. When you top that hill at night and you see a car in the other lane coming towards you but far away, how many lights do you see? You know that car has 2 headlights, but how many lights do you see? When it's a far distance away, you only see a single light. As you get closer, as magnification increases, as you get closer, the 1 point of light will resolve into 2. Resolving power, the ability to tell the difference between 2 points, you have to get closer. So as you get closer to an image, it increases resolving power. It increases the resolution of the scope. This shows the scale of how microscopes measure things. Remember, this is a science class. Science uses the metric system. The metric system measures distances in meters. Meter is the functional, the base unit of length measurement. And a meter is, we've talked about this before, a meter is about 3 feet. It's actually a little bit longer than 3 feet. 3 feet is 36 inches. A meter is about 39 inches. So you are probably less than 2 meters tall. You're probably less than 6'6", because that's what 2 meters would be. As we get closer, as we get further down, again, 1 meter, about so much. We get down to, we break that 1 meter into smaller sections. I can break that 1 meter, I can break that yard into smaller sections, right? I can break it into feet, and I can break it into inches. You can take that inch and break it into smaller sections, like into a half an inch, or a quarter inch, or an eighth, or a 16th, or a 32nd. Meters are the same way, except the way you break meters apart is generally you break it into 1,000 pieces. So if a meter is 39 inches, if a meter is about a yard, I can break that into 1,000 millimeters. How big is a millimeter? A millimeter is about the width of 10 hairs. A millimeter is about the width of 10 hairs, and there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. A hair is actually pretty darn big under the microscope. If I were to take that hair, can you take and cut a hair into smaller sections? Yeah, sometimes people get split ends, right? That's a smaller section. I can take that millimeter and cut it into smaller sections. I can actually cut it into about 1,000 smaller sections, and those are called micrometers, but we say micrometer. And if you look on here, we see this little funny shaped M. We see 100 micrometers. A human hair is about 100 micrometers wide because 10 hairs equals 1 millimeter. There are 1,000 micrometers in a millimeter. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. So a hair is about 100 micrometers wide. This funny shaped U is not a funny shaped U. This funny shaped U is a funny shaped M. This is mu is its name. It is the lowercase m in the Greek alphabet. So 100 micrometers. Plant cells, animal cells, most eukaryotic cells are somewhere around 20 to 50 micrometers wide. So we're saying about half a hair is a pretty big cell, actually. We can get even smaller. Obviously, you can get smaller because there are bits and pieces that go into making up a cell. And if there's bits and pieces that go into making up a cell, that means the cell has to be made of smaller parts. I can take that micrometer and cut it into even smaller sections yet. And we call those smaller sections nanometers. The smallest bacteria are about 100 nanometers, which means if I lined 1,000 of them up, it would be like the width of a hair. Very, very, very small. Some of the smallest bacteria are roughly about 100 nanometers. Some viruses are about the size of about 100 nanometers. So this shows a sense of scale of how far down we can measure things. Your unaided eye, you can see down to about a hair, give or take, so about 100 microns. This is what you can see without assistance. In this range, you have to use a microscope to see. Cells, some big bacteria, even some organelles we can see with a light microscope. If you want to get smaller than that, now you have to use something even more powerful, and that's called an electron microscope, and we don't have one of those. Chapter 4 is all about cells, and it's all about, if we're going to talk about cells, we have to talk about cell theory. All living things are made of cells. You are a living thing. You are made of cells. Question: how many cells are you? Let's back up and ask an easier question. How many cells were you the moment your life began? The moment your life began, you were how many cells? You were one. One cell. That egg had just been penetrated by the sperm. You're a newly fertilized egg. You are a brand new life. Right there, one cell. You start off, everything that has ever lived started off as one single cell. From single-celled bacteria all the way up to the California redwoods, the giant sequoias, all the way up to the largest organism that has ever lived on the planet. The largest animal that has ever lived on this planet is still alive on this planet. It's a blue whale. It began its life as one single cell, just like you did. That one cell split in half and became two. And then the two split and became 4, and 4 became 8, 8 became 16, and it kept splitting and kept splitting and kept splitting until at some point you reach your adult size. And your adult size, I ask you again, how many cells are you? Our best guess is you're about 37 trillion cells, 37.2 trillion cells, roughly, in the average human. You're made out of about 37 trillion cells. Now, remember, how much is a trillion? Well, a million, 1,000 millions is a billion. 1,000 billions is a trillion. So if I were to break you out into 1 million cell buckets, I would have 1 million of those buckets. One bucket has 1 million cells in it. I'd have 1 million of those buckets. That's a trillion. Now I'd have 37 million of those buckets to make you. All cells come from other cells. That one cell that you were at the beginning of your life, what was it 10 minutes before that? 10 minutes before your life began, what was that one cell? that one cell was two cells. It was your mother's egg and your father's sperm. Two separate cells. All cells come from existing cells. Let's take that egg that was inside of your mom. Where did it come from? Well, it came out of her ovary. So let's rewind that cell back into your mom's ovary. And then that one egg cell that's inside your mom's ovary, where did it come from? Well, it came from her ovarian tissue. Well, where did her ovarian tissue come from? Well, now we got to take your mom and rewind her, don't we? And rewind her back and back and back and back until that one egg is being created inside of her ovary. How old was your mom when that egg was being created inside of her ovary? She was still inside of her mother. She was still inside of your grandmother when the egg that became you was made inside your mom's ovary. A girl, a woman, is born with all the eggs she'll ever have. We keep rewinding this fetus that was your mom however many decades ago. And how far can we rewind that fetus? Keep going back, keep going back, keep going back, and back, and back, and back, and back. And where am I? I'm at the moment your mother's life began. And what was that one cell? Your mother began her life as one cell. And what was that one cell 10 minutes before that? 10 minutes before that, it was your grandmother's egg and your grandfather's sperm. And how far back can we take those? We can keep going back and going back and going back until we actually get to the first cell. The first cell. All life comes from existing life. All cells come from existing cells. All living things are made of cells.